Hey everyone, welcome to the Grow Your Tutor podcast, episode 2. In a moment, you're going to meet Annie, who's going to tell us how she balances her life as a classroom teacher with running a business and at the same time having a young family. We talk about the future of education and the role of the metaverse and VR headsets and whether they could play a part in developing the imagination of our students rather than stifling them. Get your notepad and pen ready. Let's go straight to the good stuff. Okay, thanks Annie for joining us. I'm really excited because I think we've got two chatty people that's going to go on for ages and ages. I promise we'll probably edit out all the stuff that we kind of go down on a tangent. Probably will. I'm sure we will. But I'm really excited.
You, not me. You're doing that long job.
I will try my hardest to keep us on track. You've got quite an interesting story because you still teach. So like my usual first question would be, tell us about your journey away from teaching. But let's just start right at the beginning, because you are still a teacher and you tutor. Just tell us about how that works in your life and how you find a balance between doing the two.
Well, I just kind of feel like I still owe it to teaching. I love teaching. I love the nitty-gritty of the classroom, all the moany battles. But at the same time, I get to know like what's in all the TikTok trends, everything. So it just allows me to still be a little bit, I like to think, down with the kids and see how they all vibe off of each other as well. I mean, I do like the classroom environment. It's where I came from, it's where I started, and eventually I will keep cutting back, but I do love being in the classroom. So you can't take me out of there just yet.
I like the idea of like what's keeping you there is that like I owe it, it's that thing of almost not like in a bad way. It's a positive thing because I feel like it keeps you tied to the job, but it's like, look, I've got so much out of it that I want to keep giving back in, and all those other things around it, like being down with the kids, like the TikTok trends, the music, or the things that are just happening in children's lives that perhaps if you're not in and around it, you probably wouldn't find out about it. But the right at the center of all of that is this feeling of that I just want to keep giving it back into that system, into the educational system. I like that little hook.
Definitely. And if you're tutoring outside the classroom. So I feel they feed into each other. I need to know what's going on inside a classroom. So I know what to move away from or what they need more of. They can definitely work in combination with one another.
How would you say then, so I am still in school, so I still have a connection, but it's still tutoring, so I'm not classroom based, but I still do large groups and I still am connected to classrooms in a way, but just not classroom teaching, I suppose, is the best way to put it. What would you say to a tutor that's hasn't got that now, so they've walked away completely, that's all they do is tutoring? How can they still stay connected? What would you say as a piece of advice?
I'd definitely say, if you can, I just go online. I have a look at what school they're at. I look at their classroom. I look at their policy. I mean, all schools by 2030, I believe, have to be affiliated to a trust unless they are private schools. And they're going to be affiliated to the trust. You've got all the paperwork there. It's all online. It needs to be transparent. You can see what's going on. So you get to see their models, and I just like to be nosy. What's going on at your school? Oh, it's that teacher. Oh, how do you know that's my teacher? And just also put a little bit of the fear of God into them. It's good.
You're watching all times, yeah.
Yeah, I'm always watching, and also in the tutoring game, you can really build that relationship up with the student. And being in a classroom, you've got a lot more barriers and a lot more boundaries. So it's almost like a treat being able to tutor for me sometimes. I look forward to it. It's a treat. It's like, I can be a bit more authentic.
Do you know what? I totally resonate with that. Well, and when I was still teaching full time, I just tutored on a Sunday, and I'd start at 9 in the morning. I'd finish at 7 at night, and I'd come home and feel like I hadn't worked all day.
It's great, isn't it? It's like you're just having fun and doing what you love without those boundaries in place.
Yeah, Yeah, you're not constricted by it. And I feel like that's probably what you're talking about, like that kind of pull back to the classroom is about still being connected to that system because you feel like you owe it and you've got a lot to give still. It's probably where it really comes from. But when you step out of that system, you can deliver it in the way that you want, that actually is going to really accelerate the learning for that child or that individual or the young person. Because I know you teach older children. So it's like you are, and I'm talking to you, Anna, you're getting the best of both worlds there, aren't you? So are the children who work with you. They get to see you at school or part of your trust, and then they get to work with you as well. So I like that, and I like the feeling around that as well. That gives us all that actually, if you haven't, and this is a message for those who are still teaching, are still thinking about becoming a tutor, thinking about what would you do with them, because of course you could still just bring out what you do at school and just bring it into your tutoring service. That would be a place to start. But as you start to grow, I suppose, accustomed to what works, you'll start to think, actually, I can come away from those regular routines that I'd have in school and just go whichever route would work. And it will
Yeah,
feel,
and
well, for me, it felt more like a hobby at that point. When I started realizing that, it feels more like, oh, I can do this. This is okay.
yeah, and by boundaries, I mean educational boundaries.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I said, it's like a treat. Just having fun, getting to do what you want to do. And if, and my point of view is, if all schools are going to be run as businesses, then I want to be the one running it. The group of children, I say children because I'm in secondary, but you know, the group of young people that are the least achieving are white working class males. And I work with that group and females, and I really like to, you know, want to get to the bottom of it. What's the culture there? Why are they not achieving as well as their peers or other people in other parts of the country, for example? It's not necessarily just down to socioeconomic status. I just, you can't just group everyone like that. So it, you know, I'm learning as much as I
Mm.
am, and it's a different set of students all the time. I mean, a couple of years ago there was no such thing as a pandemic, and now we're looking at the impact of that, and I feel like anxiety as well is hitting huge across students. And
Mm.
how do you work around that when their heart rate is at such a level they can barely breathe, or their
Mm.
minds just kind of can't focus? Yeah, it just allows you to see what's out there, really, what is going on, what's current.
So you really find then that being in both places, so you've got obviously your tutoring business and being in school, that connection to school actually really supports what you do in your tutoring business. It's kind of like a flow from one to the other.
Definitely, they definitely overflow. And I just want to make a point that I am a part-time secondary school teacher. I
Okay.
couldn't, I couldn't, I couldn't manage it all full time, because you know as much as
Mhm.
I know, you know, even if you're part-time secondary, you're basically full-time because you've got the marking, you've got the planning, you've got all of that to do. I mean, yeah, I'm really lucky. I
Yeah,
work with a fantastic team. I really do get on with my colleagues in the department, and we've
good.
always kind of we're together. I think that really massively helps. And like I said, the students, I'm really passionate about them and their learning, and my
Mm.
colleagues are fantastic and really supportive. So I think it definitely, who you work with makes a big difference in your environment, even if it is this
Yeah.
big kind of empire trust.
Let's go a bit deeper into the tutoring. I love the fact we spoke about that connection between the school and your tutoring business, and that flow and how they overlap. I think that's really an amazing thing for people to hear. Particularly if you're a teacher looking at starting, I feel like don't or you use this as a way in, like a reason to do it rather than a reason not to. So I think I remember wanting to start quite early on, and I didn't, because I was like, how am I going to manage the workload? Am I still going to like it in the same way? Is it going to like almost create a conflict between what I do in the classroom and what I can do in my tutoring? And I feel like you're kind of paving the way to say to people, look, no, it can
It's
exist.
it's all fear. The only thing that, you know, if it's fear. We all have fear of the unknown, and I just think
Mm,
sometimes you've got to dive into it and do it and see if it works. So, you know, you're not gonna, as long as you're not killing anyone, you're not harming anyone.
no,
You've got to.
totally
It's
true.
always that battle of the fear when you start something new. It's always there, and sometimes you just need to hear a positive story or just really relate to something to get you going and give you that confidence boost. So
Yeah.
if you're thinking about it, stop thinking about it, do it, get into it.
Yeah.
And don't forget, if you're a teacher, you've already got leverage because you're in a classroom. You don't, most tutors out there have never been in a classroom, or don't have any formal teaching qualifications. So
Yeah.
just remember, if you're a teacher, you're already above the game. As soon as you walk in, you've got that leverage.
People don't realise that
Yeah,
a
it's
lot of the tutors aren't qualified.
yeah, because there's no kind of bar for that at the moment. You don't need any qualifications to be a tutor. Hence why you have got like 16-year-olds on Facebook being like, yes, I'm very young, but
They're
I
like
can
£10
teach
an
you.
hour jobs, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but I can teach you, and hats off to them for trying to make it work. But that's the way
Mhm.
of the tutoring market. So if you're a teacher and you're wavering and you're thinking about it, don't think, do it, because you've got that leverage.
You started tutoring ages ago.
Yeah, you know what? It's
Right.
really weird. I wouldn't say weird. I didn't realize I kind of did it unconsciously without realizing I was going to even be a teacher, or it end up being my kind of big game. I was sick. I was doing my GCSEs, and my cousins went to this group tuition centre, kind of like Saturday mornings. And then my parents were like, okay, right, we'll you might as well do it as well, Annie. And I was like, great, thanks, cousins. So I, sit there Saturday morning in this group tuition centre, and it's just help with GCSEs. And anyway, when and often it was quite nice actually. They're a really nice South African family. I remember one of the ladies' name was Bridget, and her dad was named Sean. And they'd come in and they'd talk to you. And, when they came in, it was quite nice having the big people come and talk to you as like a little 15-year-old and asking you how it's going. They really had an in with it as well. And I didn't notice the significance of that until obviously a lot later. So after I'd sat my GCSEs, got my results, they called me up. They were like, "Oh, Annie, do you want to come and work for us?" I was like, "What, me? Little 16-year-old me? This is just, why not?" I was really nervous, and I ended up tutoring for their business. It was a group tuition. I remember it was above a leisure centre, and this was on the outskirts of London. And I did that for a little while, and then started with sixth form and stuff, and never thought anything of it. And then I did my degree, which was not teaching. I didn't go jump straight into teaching. I did my degree, and then after my degree, did some kind of like management roles here and there, and then just realized I do not want to be a paper pusher. I cannot sit and that's just boring. I love people. I love interacting. And then I sat and looked back. No, I don't think anyone ever kind of grows up and be like, oh, I've just been at school for like, I don't know, 10 years of my life. I want to go back to school and be on the end of it. I would never thought like that. I couldn't wait to get out of secondary school. And then, yeah, I realised, hang on a minute, I'm doing youth work as well. I do voluntary youth work. I'm actually already in it. I'm building relationships with young people. I know the issues that are going on. And then I decided to do my teaching degree. I did my teaching degree. And then a little while down the line of teaching, I was getting a little bit bored. I was like, oh, I joined an agency. And funnily enough, by the agency treating me not very well, it again that kind of that little struggle, it allowed me to build my own tutoring base. What happened was the woman basically went AWOL. She didn't pay me for 3 months.
Wow.
And I was really I was really upset about it. But equally, she hadn't taken money for the clients for 3 months, and I didn't realize that. So I was kind of like, where is she? Couldn't get hold of her, and I was sending these monthly reports to her as requested. And then I had to turn around and say to the parents that I'm really sorry. I can't do this anymore because I'm not getting paid. And I'm like, what? They were like, oh. And then the parents like, well, they haven't asked for payment, so can't we just pay you? And then effectively, I took her client,
Okay.
and which is obviously nowadays you've got the agency, you've got the signing, you're not allowed to do that. But she went AWOL, and I still to this day don't know what happened. She's still running.
How weird.
It was really weird. I don't know if some kind of personal struggle happened or whatnot. They were like, no, don't leave. We'll pay you what you're owed. carry on. And then through that, it just kind of ended up with siblings and
Yeah.
then word of mouth, and that's where it
Okay.
started. Worked with some fantastic families.
Mm. I
And
think
then
that.
sorry, and having that
Okay.
situation pushed me to do it on my own, because I think otherwise I'd be, really under the umbrella of an agency, getting rubbish pay, putting in a
Mm.
lot of work. And because I found myself in that situation of doing it on my own, I realized that actually I can do it on my own. I don't need
Yeah.
to be working under an agency, and
Yeah.
this is how it works.
So how long ago was that?
I'm going to sound really old now. I think it's about
Don't give anything away. Say last week, Annie.
a good good like nearly a decade ago.
Okay. Yeah. So about 10 years. So you've kind of been running it like that, like in your life in that way. Like, so does that predate you having children as well?
um Very slightly, because then
Okay.
it was I never kind of intended to set it up as a way of, I was doing it as organically,
Yeah.
as like a hobby, really enjoyed it. And then you want that hobby to then be your job. Why not?
Yeah. I know,
And so
totally.
it's creeping over, which is, yeah, where I am now.
What's interesting to me? Obviously, I didn't know a lot about you, Annie, before, but I've got to know you a little bit more over the last sort of month or so. So, Annie, you've obviously just sort of made a decision of some sort to sort of take it a little bit more seriously recently,
Yeah.
because you signed up to do the course, right? The beginner, what I call the beginner to pro course, which I know is a rubbish name, but really it's about taking people like yourself who have, I don't know, like even an inspiring story, but a good idea, a good way of doing business, but just taking them from, or just not even taking them, really just showing people that you can go from wherever you are now to much, much bigger.
Well, you've used a key word there. It's business. All of this kind of marketing, close sale stuff, most teachers don't really have a Scooby about.
Yeah.
It's we've kind of been in a classroom. We get a paycheck. We've got to follow these policies, and this is a curriculum. This is what you do. You don't really look at it from a business point of view. But this
Mm.
is, you need this just in life. You need this as a life skill, learning about business, whether you're running or not. I've learned so much from the course. Um, and I can apply that to when I'm looking for things or when I'm shopping for things. It's definitely a life skill you need to learn about. And whether you're going into tutoring or not, it's, you need that kind of basis, that business background, and learning that.
Like for lots of us, the holidays is like a reason to stay. I see that a lot. It's another question that comes up a lot. Like, what do I do over holidays? Can I make tuition work over the holidays? What would be your advice to someone who, at the moment, like wants to leave teaching because they've come to that point, but
Yeah.
they're worried about working over those times? Is it something that you do? Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, actually, and I think this was a bit of a, I came to you actually with this, and it's a simple thing. If you need work over the holidays, you've got to preempt it. You have to start, right. Okay, so my exams finish in June. I've got to
Mm,
start marketing for that in May, and June, and possibly July. Um,
mm,
Unfortunately, majority of people think last minute, so nobody wants to look at summer holidays in and tutoring in May.
mm.
So it's having something ready to go basically for the summer.
Yeah.
Is it little booster
Um,
sessions? There's science there as well in terms of memory and retention, and not doing anything. I mean, others are the opinion like, no, it's a summer, we're going to switch off, we're going to have a proper break, and that's great. But I need some sort of brain stimulation. I need to still be
yeah.
doing something, and then it's not such a shock. And then September's not a complete waste for me, trying to just get back into the mix of things and spend a month just adjusting again. Um, I like to, it's good to keep going. And in the summer, I think that's actually a prime time. I wish we could build that culture up. It's a prime time to make use and do something a little bit different, or read around topics. Definitely, I've got, for
Yeah.
example, English A level coursework. Have a look at that over the summer, and teachers are off. They can't necessarily always be responsive to their emails, and you've got students a little bit lost. They want to start it, but they've forgotten
Mm.
what their teacher said. in June,
Mm.
because it's now August and it's due in 3 weeks' time, having that panic. So, there's always something out there. It's finding, looking for people's needs.
What you're talking about in a business sense is positioning. It's positioning
Yeah,
yourself in the right place at the right time, and planning for that outcome, like planning for the outcome that you want, and then preparing for the worst at the same time. So I'll give you a couple of examples. So like I think you can earn £600 a week working 2 hours a week in the summer holidays. I think that is doable. And you do it by creating workshops, and you can set the workshops up whenever you want. It doesn't matter. You choose the day that works for you. So I would choose a Saturday, because that works. Saturday afternoon, I'm going to work 1:30 till 3:30 every Saturday, and I'm going to do GCSE maths, right? So GCSE maths, I'm going to have 10 of them in for 2 hours once a week, and I'm going to charge £60 for those 2 hours.
yeah,
Now, there's 5 of those running over the summer holidays, and that's all I'm going to do, because that's all I need to do. Now, if you multiply that by however many, so 60 times by 5, someone could book into all of them. Some people might only book into 2, some might even do 1. But if someone wanted to do all of them, what I would do is give them a discount. I'll give them a reason to book into all of them. Now, what we're doing now is packaging and positioning. So I wouldn't do GCSE maths, I'll make that really clear. But I could do that for preparation for year 6. I might not charge as much, because I don't know whether I talk about tension. I won't do this now, but tension in the business, like, so the tension for, say, year 10s to get prepped over 6 2-hour sessions would be higher than, say, me trying to build or make year 6s more confident. So people would be prepared to pay more money for that, because the tension is higher. Whether you could get 14 or 15-year-olds to attend something like that, which I think you could, but if you charge £60 and you had space for 10 children, that's £600 for those 2 hours. Now, with that £600, you think of the resources you could invest in to make that a success. And then you times that by the 5 sessions you can squeeze in over the summer holidays. Not only have you provided a workshop that is super high level, because you're able to invest some of that money into the resources, you've also made a decent amount of profit for your business and for your time. Like, you've valued your time. It doesn't take much to move from, right, I've got to set this up, and position it somewhere, to packaging something together to make it like the best deal ever. You might go, right, £600 like the top whack, but if all 10 book into all 6 and I offer them a discount, it might drop from 600 to 400, but you've sold every single seat all through the summer, rather than having ones where you only make £200, they're all going to make 400. So you kind of make allowances around that. You position it and price it at the right place. But totally, I love the advice there. Like, you can just get ahead of the game.
It's honestly, it's mindset. The only thing, if you're thinking about doing it, the only thing that's letting it down, or you're not doing it, is you. We make excuses, and you can find 1,000,001 excuses. You have to be in the right mindset.
Okay, well, we've spoken about that in the course. We spoke about the money mindset side of things, don't we? And I'm not an expert at that. That's just me sharing my own journey through the last sort of 5 or 6 years, and what's been in my way of making, whether it's the tutoring business more successful or the coaching business more successful. There's been so many blocks, and I'm expecting more. But I'm trying to get ahead of the game. Like, my mindset around money is one thing. My mindset around being visible is something else. My mindset, you've got to deal with these things along the way. And if there is a barrier there, you have to find support, which is why the group exists. It's why I feel like the training and workshops are great for people to come along to and start to invest in themselves to make it easier. That's the whole point. Now, while we're kind of in the kind of the meat and gravy of the business stuff, if there was an element of your own business knowledge that you'd want to improve, what would that be?
So in terms of, it's an overlap. I never answer anything simply, do I? It's an overlap. In terms of knowledge, it would be technology as well, and this might kind of link to if you had the power to, I don't know, or if you had money for something. in the
Yeah.
business. So this is kind of knowledge, technology, and money. It would be looking at, and I sound a bit weird, the metaverse. Have you heard of
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so like 3D, like VR headsets and things like that. I know this sounds really, really out there, but that's the future. I want my students to be able to really indulge in a text. Oh, this is the industrial streets of London. This is what time period this guy was writing in. All right, okay, a bit smelly. No, I want them to experience that you're literally choking on soot and ash, and you're covered in that. And it's a really cramped environment, and you can see and smell the poverty. And there's markets spinning out on the streets, and there's animal remains there. To really kind of engross themselves and feel that text, because that emotion, of feeling and learning really succinct together. And the nearest, I can't take them back to Dickensian London as it was then directly, but having something like the metaverse and a VR headset might help stimulate them and understand that a little bit more. It's like when you're looking at World War as a child, you're like, oh, it's really sad, soldiers died, but you're not going to really understand that unless you can really project yourself in the midst of it. And writing is about feelings and emotions, and it's one thing saying it, but it's another thing feeling it. So yeah, I know I sound a bit out there and a bit weird, but it would definitely be looking at integrating the metaverse. And I want us to get to a stage where we are doing that. Like, kids, chuck your VR headset on. We're going to do a geography field trip in Peru. So yeah, that's definitely something
That's really, I think that's like massive foresight, if I'm honest. Like, and we're on the cusp. We're on the cusp. I'm not sure what will take us over the edge towards it yet. The metaverse seems a step in the right direction. I mean, if people don't know what the metaverse is, it's basically online real estate, and there's lots of different places that you can go and visit. They're basically they're showing up as islands. So if people are not sure, it's a bit weird. But
it's
up as
not
islands.
like a portal where you open the cupboard and you end up in Narnia.
I bet it is like that.
Yeah,
But
actually, it is a little bit. Here we go. You can tell she's a tutor in English. Here's all the references.
I love
Children, I want you to feel as if you're inside the writer's mind and in the book and feeling, experiencing everything they are. Yeah, that's my teaching voice, by the way.
True, but how true is that? But I love the fact that you already have grasped the idea of why it's going to be important. Now, whether it stays as because I know the meta and the metaverse and all those kind of things at the moment, it's kind of on the edge of all of our knowledges, really. There's only people like, I would say, Mark Zuckerberg, who's a big investor into it. And I think because it's those sorts of people who are investing, there's a real stigma. But when you start realizing that these big businesses have already invested in space, in the metaverse, we already know it's going. Okay, it's really interesting. Thank you. But let's move towards like the last part of the podcast and the vlog is about these quick fire questions. So one of them is about what would you do if you had the power to change the education system? We'll go there because you kind of started to go down that route. What would you do if you had the power?
Definitely more freedom to explore, be more spontaneous, not sticking to rigid curriculum plans to promote learning. Look at schools as an individual and their local environment to promote learning, and being able to offshoot lessons around that. And what's news and what's current. Okay, guys, this volcano's exploded here. Blah blah blah. Right, we're going to scrap the lesson that we had planned. We're now going to look at volcanoes in this light and the reasons behind that. I also teach politics A level, and although it's not always practical, well, it's evolving all the time. Look at what's happened in the news. And I was looking at Boris Johnson being a presidential prime minister. And what I mean by that, basically being able to do what the hell he wants and getting away with it a couple of months ago because, of his lockdown parties and everything. And the man looked like he wasn't going anywhere. And then literally a couple of weeks later, I've then had change that new lesson. Well, actually, he is being held accountable. People are leaving. If you haven't got your loyalists with you, things change all the time, and we just need to keep it current. And why are we sitting exams that were written 2 years ago?
I mean, again, amen. I don't ever get a bad answer to that, by the way. That's amazing. I feel that you get a proper answer with people on the floor. Like, but boots on the floor will always give you a proper answer to this kind of question. I love it. I think reactive curriculums would be far better for our children because again, like you spoke about this at the beginning, right? You like being in school because it keeps you current with stuff that's going on.
Yeah,
If you were then able to keep them current with what is
exactly.
potentially quite boring stuff for a 14 and 15-year-old because they don't understand it, if you can give them that understanding because it's happening right now, they'll go, oh, I can understand this. Suddenly they're watching the news for the first time or properly for the first time, or they're taking in content on YouTube that perhaps they wouldn't have even clicked on before. And then they're coming back to you the next day with, oh my God, I didn't realize that had happened or that had happened. And then you're able to build on it because it's happening right now.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself and your tutoring business in 5 years' time?
Um, just a really good base, basically like a little team, just a really good base of students. And ideally, you're not having to keep up with all the marketing. Come and find me, I'm here, blah blah blah. Ideally, it's kind of recommendation, they come to you. And I was really lucky because that's how it all started. And then I
Mm,
had a break because I had a child, and then you have to kind
mm,
of start all over again.
yeah,
So ideally, that just the oh right. So she's the English GCSE lady. She's the one to go to, and her. Oh, okay, yeah, I know. Yeah, she's the one to go to for this. Just knowing, isn't it? Word of
yeah.
mouth. Parents talk. That's
Yeah, go on,
it.
Danny.
We look at all these entrepreneurs, and we're like, oh, how did you do it? Blah blah blah. Everyone sees where they're at and taking notice of where they're at, but no one sees that long slog, that long journey, and the boring parts, because boring stuff doesn't sell. No one's interested in, oh, I had to eat porridge for breakfast, dinner, and lunch,
Yeah.
it's the fun stuff is what people want to know about in terms of their story. So yeah, you gotta get down, do all the hard work, do all the marketing.
Okay.
I made my first little video yesterday. It took me an hour and a
Nice.
half.
Did it?
Um,
Is it an hour and a half video?
no, it's not an hour and a half video. It's like 2 minutes, but it took me an hour and a half. But
It
the
is.
point is,
Yeah.
I forced myself to do it because I was like, I'm not
Yeah.
giving up. I want to complete it. I want to do it, and it will
Yeah.
get easier.
Yes. Oh, that's such a big lesson to take away for everybody. If you haven't done, and it doesn't matter what it is, like we're talking about video and so that's like video content to put out for your
Yeah, not
potential
my
customers,
face.
right?
I'm camera
Yeah.
shy. I hate being
Yeah.
on camera, and I
Fair
don't want all the students being like, Miss, I saw you on YouTube.
Yeah, do you know, it's a big barrier. I get that a lot. It's like, no, well, I'm still teaching. Again, like still teaching. And I
Yeah,
know people, yeah, would see it. And actually putting yourself out there could be a bit of a risk in the same way. But the message is here, look, you're gonna be bad, first of all, like whether it takes you an hour and a half to do a 2 minute video or I mean, even like I'd take this like pod vlogcast thing. Like I know that the first probably 10 I will look back on in a year, hopefully, if I can keep it going that long, and go, oh, we want to do those again. So there'll be a part two. I want to follow up to make sure that you get a better experience of it later on as well. But also, it'd be good to reconnect with people to see how they've progressed and see whether we're still in the same place or whether we've moved forward.
I'll see if the
But just
metaverse is now there. And Annie was right about
we'll
that. She
meet
weren't
with
being a
our VR
weirdo.
headset. Yeah, we'll meet. We'll meet in your
There you
metaverse
go.
place.
Yeah,
The idea is that we accept straight away that the first time or the first few times we do something is going to be rubbish.
yeah,
It can only get better from there. So the message is, look, whether you want to be more, because we were talking about being more visible and putting ourselves out there a bit more. This was in the course. It's like it doesn't have to be video. It could be like you step towards it. It could be like a text or a Facebook post just with your picture, or it could just be just putting yourself out there a little bit more because people buy from people, a bit like what you were talking about at school. if people start to relate with you and you're building up relationships and you're getting to know people a little bit more, it just makes life a lot easier. One of those things you can do is put your face on stuff, so people know that when you want to think about that GCSE English tutor, they know exactly who it is and what they look like, what their voice is like, and it just takes away a little bit of the unknown. So when someone's thinking about, do I send a message or don't I, they'll feel more comfortable because they'll feel like they know you. It's a bit like, I mean, I'd use athletes, or you could use actors. Because they're on your screen a lot, you feel like you have a connection with them. But what we want to do is make it as easy as we can. We want people to get to know us, the people we've never met before. We probably might not even meet anyway, because they might not choose us to be their tutor. But if they are looking for that one thing that we're offering, they feel like they can go, that person feels really relatable, let's contact them. See, you want people to move towards you. So I totally get that. And the idea that we can be rubbish, don't worry about it. We can make it better as we go on. That's fine. All those things. Because we're teachers, what we're going to be doing in our tutoring business is going to be high level, because we have got that credibility and we have got those skills. Right, very last question then, Annie, last one. Who are the inspirational people in your life? And that can be from past or present, or both.
Inspirational people in my life. So first of all, I just want to relate it back to the lady in that agency who ran that agency that, you know, didn't pay me for 3 months and went AWOL. Great. She's an inspiration there, because I took all her clients, realised I could do it on my own, as she was doing it all on her own, just had a nice little website, lots of clients that trusted her. And you know, you just think, you never put yourself in a position, oh, I'm going to do that, I can do that. So yeah, definitely inspiration from her there. Thank you very much. Oh gosh, the other inspiration really is it's a bit sad, and I know it's a bit mumsy, but it's going to be my children, because you just want them to grow up and be really critically aware. And like I said, I learn a lot from the older kids that I teach. You know, at some point, my kids are going to be finding those barriers and meeting those barriers. And so if I've got that information beforehand, what can I do to address it? You know, it's young people are so creative, and then by the time they're about 7, we've already molded them into what we want them to be. You know, sit down or be quiet, or you've got to sit still in a classroom for 5 hours a day, which is just not right. And then when they get to 15, why aren't you being creative? Why aren't you writing creatively? Why are you sat there with nothing to say? Well, because we've suppressed them this whole time and told them to be like that. So it's, yeah, you know, my other inspiration is definitely my kids, because I've got a duty there. I've got all sorts of emotions and responsibility. And you know, it's also, I've got to thank them, because they're my guinea pigs for everything. We're trying out a new maths technique, kids. Here we go. So yeah, those two at the moment.
That's pretty cool. I like that you've taken like a negative experience and just flipped it, because it's really, I know that didn't help in you, but could be quite scary, and a lot of people might have just walked away from that going, I'm not getting into that game, that's ridiculous. Annie, look, that was amazing. Thank you for giving me your time. I know everybody's going to listen and get quite a lot from your story. I like that it's going to be slightly different, because I think a lot of the others that are going to be coming on over the next 3 weeks are mainly full-time tutors. So you have a different sort of position, which there will be lots of people in the group who will connect with this, or be in a similar position to you. So there's a lot to take away from what you've shared today. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. If you're wavering or thinking about it, I mean, the worst you can do is just give it a go.
Yeah, totally agree. Anyway, that's it. Thanks, Annie. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Cheers.
I know I'll speak to you again soon. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it.